We all love our rides, but it's crucial to make sure they are not just stylish, but safe too. In this video, we're diving into the world of automobiles to uncover the 10 cars with safety red flags. Whether you're a gearhead or just looking for a reliable set of wheels, this video is a must-watch to the end, ensuring you travel confidently. Let's hit the road to safety together. Number 10. Koenigsegg CCR. Swedish people who make cars like Volvo are all about safety. But there's this one car brand that didn't follow the rules. Check out Koenigsegg CCR. It's a super fast car that doesn't follow the typical Swedish style. This beast even outpaces the McLaren F1, a champion in top speed. The CCR rocked a powerful engine, a 4.7-liter twin turbocharged V8, giving it a whopping 806 horsepower and 679 pounds per torque. It is one of the fastest stick shift cars around. Now the catch with the CCR was its aerodynamics. They designed it to cut through the air super well for top speed, but they skipped the rear wing to avoid slowdown. The problem is, with no wing means less downforce, and that's risky for a super speedy car. An 800 plus horsepower car without a rear wing? That's like driving on thin ice. Number 9. Vauxhall Vectra VXR. Some cars can be a bit tough to control, especially when you're making turns. It's a bit of a struggle to guide the car through each bend, which can be pretty thrilling. Some cars are just the opposite. Take the Vectra, for example. It's got a big issue with understeering, which means it doesn't turn as smoothly as it should. You might end up bumping into things that don't move. Driving the Vectra is kind of tricky because it feels like the steering wheel and the wheels aren't really working together. It's like trying to steer with your arms all twisted up. Even though the car has a strong V6 engine with 280 horsepower, it doesn't have any fancy stuff to make it do any amazing things. So when you press the gas hard, the car shakes a lot. Number 8. Porsche Carrera GT. In New York, when people were supposed to stay home, a guy crashed a rare Porsche Gambala Mirage GT last month. Sadly, these kind of accidents, some even deadly, happen quite a bit with Porsche supercars, especially the famous one from Fast and the Furious with Paul Walker. They made over 1,270 of the Porsche Carrera GT ever. So folks are asking, is it the riskiest road car ever? Some so-called experts and lawyers said the Carrera GT is dangerous and not perfect. But is it? This car is like a wild animal, tough to handle, even for some expert racers. It's a real looker with sexy curves and the best engine sound ever. It tempts you to press the gas pedal even harder. Those big grippy tires make you feel confident until suddenly things go south. When the grip slips away and you're on your own, the Porsche, despite being modern, has zero driving aids. You've got to wrestle it in control, manage the touchy race-style clutch and gears, and handle the power. All of that with smoke and screeching sound around you. You better start praying. Maybe they should have called it the Dangerous Beauty. Number 7. TVR Speed 12. TVR doesn't add any driving help in their cars because they believe it makes you drive better. But they worry that if they add them, you might get too confident and end up in a bad situation. It's kind of like saying they don't have enough money for it, but with more steps. This idea affects all TVR cars, especially the Speed 12. This car is super dangerous. It weighs less than 1,000 kilos and has so much power that it can even break the dyno machine that measures it. Peter Wheeler, who's a pro racer and the boss of TVR, test drove the prototype and thought it was way too powerful for regular people. The very next day, they canceled the car. They gave all the deposits back to the people that paid, and they took apart the cars and used them as spare parts for the racing version. Except for one. They changed its name to Zebra Speed 12 and sold it to a special buyer picked by Peter Wheeler himself. This Zebra Speed 12 had less powerful engine, 800 horsepower, and a full-on racing aero kit for better grip. But even with these changes, Evo magazine still said it was terrifying. Number 6. Chevrolet Corvair. Alright, so there's this car called the Chevrolet Corvair. It got famous in a book by Ralph Nader called Unsafe at Any Speed. Chevy made the Corvair to compete with cool cars like Porsche. It has a different style with a different engine at the back that cools with air. But here's the catch. Most folks weren't ready for the unique way it drives. People thought it was risky because it didn't even have safety things like an anti-roll bar in the front. Plus, if there's a crash, the steering column could move too close to the driver. There's more. The engine at the back sometimes let out bad fumes inside the car. Not good, right? Because of all these problems and bad stuff, they stopped making the Corvair in 1969. That's the story of the Chevrolet Corvair. We're halfway through. If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe and like the video. Now, let's get back on the road. Number 5. Ford Pinto. This car called the Ford Pinto had a saying like, "Pinto leaves with a warm feeling." The Ford Pinto is known as a really dangerous car in the US. It was made quickly and had some big problems. In the 70s, when the Japanese and European cars became popular, Ford made the Pinto. People liked smaller cars at that time, and the Pinto used less fuel, which was good. But there were big issues with how it was made, and they had to recall it in 1978. One problem was that the gears could move by themselves, and the driver wouldn't even know. Ford didn't pay attention to a big issue in its design. If you were driving the Pinto and someone hit you from behind, the fuel tank right after the bumper often got damaged. This damage could lead to a car catching on fire. As more people got hurt or died because the gas tank wasn't protected well, people started talking a lot about how unsafe these cars were. Thankfully, people stopped buying the car. That's why it's considered one of the least reliable cars ever. Number 4. Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake. Cobras are really strong cars, and the Cobra to end all Cobras takes it to a whole new level of the craziness. The Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake is super powerful, with 800 horsepower, and can go up to 200 miles per hour. But here's the scary part, this car has a really dangerous problem. When you step on the gas even a little, the gas pedal gets stuck and doesn't go back. So if you're driving this car, it's risky. You might end up in a different town than you started at. In 1966, a guy named Tony Maxey got one of these Super Snakes, and guess what? The 800 horsepower issue hit him. Now, instead of crashing into cars at a red light, Mr. Maxey was in California, a place where people do crazy things in cars. Unfortunately, this time it wasn't a stunt. He couldn't stop his Super Snake and he drove it off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. Number 3. Porsche 911 Turbo 930. These days, the Porsche 911 is like a symbol of precise and efficient German engineering. No messing around, everything's serious. A real speed machine. But it wasn't always like that. When it first came out, the 911 had its engine in the wrong place, hanging out behind the rear wheel like a pendulum. This messed up the balance a lot. Newer models fixed that issue, and now they handle it really well. But in the old days, this layout was risky. If the back lost traction and started swinging, you were in trouble, my friend. The worst was the 911 Turbo. They called it the Widowmaker. In the primitive turbocharging days of the 70s, there was a delay in the power boost, making it sneaky but strong. Imagine trying to control the swinging back end in a corner and suddenly, bam, extra power hits you like a surprise. It was tough, and you might as well just give up. Number 2. Pontiac Fiero. The Pontiac Fiero was a small car with only 2 seats. A lot of people liked it because it was compact and efficient. Now here's the catch. Even though it did well in safety tests, the Fiero got a bad reputation for being not so safe. Why? Well, it had a habit of catching fire unexpectedly. There were a few reasons for these fires. The cars had some electrical issues due to not so good design choices, and its coolant system had problems too. The coolant pipes in the engine were in the wrong place, and there were mistakes in the instructions about how much oil to put into your car. This caused the car to not have enough oil and to leak oil, And guess what? Fires often start because of these issues. The Fiero was sold only from 1983 to 1988, but during that time, it caused a lot of trouble. There were 260 cases of engines catching fire. Thankfully, there was only 6 reports of people getting hurt, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Number 1. The Reliant Robin. In the UK, the laws say that if a vehicle has only 3 wheels and weighs less than 450 kilos, it's not called a car but a 3-wheel motorcycle. Reliant took advantage of this rule to create a low-cost 3-wheel car. You could drive it just with a motorcycle's license, and it also meant lower taxes. It seemed like a good idea during the tough post-war times, right? Well, not really. This car, known as the Reliant Robin, had a unique design flaw. Unlike regular cars with 2 front wheels, the Robin had only 1 in the front. This caused a big problem. If you made a sudden move, the weight could shift outside the wheelbase, making the car tip over. Imagine being in a car that tipped over? Not a good position. If you drove a bit faster, the car could end up rolling over and tumbling. And here's the kicker, it was made of fiberglass, not the sturdiest material. So if you crashed, it could be quite a wild and scary ride. All of this trouble could have been avoided if they put 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back, but that would have required some changes in the design, making the car more expensive. Unfortunately, the idea didn't fly. To make things even worse, there was a wheel bump in the middle of the trunk, making things a bit inconvenient. Shockingly, despite these issues, the Reliant Robin sold well, especially among people with limited financial means. Can you believe it? And there's even more stories about other cars like this. If you want to hear them, let us know in the comments section below. Remember, safety is key to a smooth ride, so always do your homework before hitting the gas. If you found this video helpful or eye-opening, make sure to watch this next video, all about 50 car facts you won't believe and never knew. Probably. Safe travels, and I'll see you over there. Drive smart and drive safe.